Collective identity shifting. When we talk about identity transformation, we usually think of it as an individual process, me changing, me growing, me becoming a new version of myself. But identity is never isolated. It forms and expresses itself in a social context. Who you are depends not only on what you believe about yourself, but also on what your social group recognize, values, or rejects. This chapter explores the power of collective identities, how they influence our choices, how they evolve themselves, and most importantly, how you can consciously use them to support your personal identity shifting. Individual identity and collective identity. Human beings are social animals. From childhood, we build our sense of self through the gaze of others, parents, classmates, teachers. Later, colleagues, friends, and partners validate or challenge the image we hold of ourselves. Examples. A child growing up in a family of artists is more likely to define themselves as creative. A student who joins a sports team naturally adopts the identity of an athlete. Your individual identity is always a dialogue with your collective identity. The role of group in identity constructions. Groups act as amplifying mirrors. They reflect certain parts of your identity and reinforce them through social repetitions. Examples: if you join a group of entrepreneurs, you start thinking, speaking, and acting like them. If you remain in a group that constantly criticizes ambitious people, you may hold yourself back for fear or rejection. In social psychology, this is called conformity and group norms. This invisible forces shapes our behaviors without us fully realizing it. Collective identity shifting in history. Collective identities don't just apply to small groups. They also affect nations, companies, and social movements. Historical examples. After World War II, Germany had to shift from the identity of a devastated nation to that of a modern, peaceful, and rebuilt country. In the 60s, the US civil rights movement allowed African Americans to transform an imposed identity, oppression, into an asserted one, equality, dignity, cultural power. Entire societies can experience collective identity shifts. Companies and collective identity. In the professional world, companies also carry collective identities. A startup may define itself as agile and innovative. A multinational might identify with rigor and stability. And company in crisis may need to shift its identity entirely to survive. Example, from polluter to sustainability champion. An example, Apple in the 1990s was struggling. With Steve Jobs' return and the slogan Think Different, the company carried out a collective identity shifting that redefined not only its internal culture, but also its global image. Communities and their effects on the individual. Belonging to a community can accelerate or slow down your identity transformation. Examples. If you want to become a writer and you join an online community of authors, you reinforce your identity as a writer. If you want to quit drinking, joining a group like Alcoholics Anonymous helps you embody the new identity of sober person. Communities act as identity cocoons. They offer safety, support, and validation for the new version of yourself. The dangers of collective identity shifting. While collective identities can be powerful, they also carry risks. Loss of individuality. You might lose your uniqueness by conforming too much. Dependence. You may struggle to maintain your identity if you leave the group. Toxic identities. Some groups reinforce harmful beliefs. Example, cults, gangs, destructive environments. Example, a teenager seeking belonging might join a violent group. That group gives them a strong identity, but a destructive one. Using collective identity shifting to succeed. The key is to consciously choose groups that support your evolution. The strategies. Join aligned communities. Find groups that already embody the version of you that you want to become. Create your growth circle. Surround yourself with friends or mentors who lift you higher. Participate actively. The more you engage in a group, the more its identity becomes yours. Keep a strong personal identity. Use collectives as support, but remain the master of your trajectory. Practical exercise, social audit. List the 5 people you spend the most time with. Evaluate whether they reinforce your old or new identity. Consciously decide to add at least one person who embodies your future self into your close circle. In conclusion, identity shifting is never a solitary journey. Friends, colleagues, family, communities, and even nations influence how we define ourselves. These collective forces can be obstacles or accelerators. By learning to recognize, choose, and consciously leverage collective identities, you multiply your chance of successful transformation. Your personal identity never grows alone. It is carried, amplified, or slowed down by the identity of your group. The next chapter will explore a crucial dimension, the long term visions of identity shifting, and why some transformation take days, others months, and still others years.